Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So my name's Katie and today I'm going to be talking about some of my favourite books of the year so far. Is this video kind of bold to be making in November when we're going to be doing a favourites of the year at the end of December? Maybe, but I am confident that I'm currently reading and I'm about to read some books that are going to be my favourites of the year as well. So I feel like there will be some variety in these videos. But I think because I haven't been making books for so long, I really wanted to talk about some books that I've loved this year and would really recommend. So yeah, that is why we're doing this video now. And yeah, these books just, I think I'm going to name this video Books That Changed My Brain Chemistry because they just meant so much to me. And yeah, that's that. So the first book we're going to start with is Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. So as you probably know, my favourite series of all time is the Stormlight Archive, and I love this book so much again as well. I think it's probably not my favourite in the series. I think that's still Rhythm of War, but I did really love this one, especially some of the characters' arcs were just so good. Like Kaladin, yeah. So this was an easy favourite for me, and I know people criticise Brandon Sanderson for his writing, and I think in this book, I can see the occasional flaw, but I'm choosing to ignore it, some of his dialogue is a bit cheesy, and his jokes sometimes don't always land for me, but the characters I just love so much and mean so much to me, and his plots are always excellent. I love the progression of the plot in this. I really enjoyed the setup of this book. It's set over 10 days and it's a 10-day countdown. So the sections are split into day 1, day 2, day 3. And I feel that really added to the atmosphere and the tension. And I think actually helped kept the plot moving quicker than it maybe has done in other Stormlight books, because you sort of feel you're doing a day at a time. And yeah, I was not disappointed by a single character's arc in this book. Kaladin's especially meant so much to me. I think I probably have to do a whole spoilery video on all my thoughts on this because it just means so much. But yeah, Kaladin's arc especially. I love seeing him finding a bit of peace, and his constant leveling up. I also loved him and Syl in this book. People used to ship Kaladin and Syl, and I was always ooh, that's so weird. But actually in this book I could kind of see it and was do I ship it now? Yeah, the scene where they dancing, it's so cute. I loved Adeline's arc as well so much. I also especially loved how Adeline and Kaladin kind of mirror each other in this book. Kaladin is behaving like Adeline would, and Adeline is behaving like Kaladin would, and he would never give up because Kaladin would never give up. And then Kaladin's being gentle to himself because Adeline would be gentle to... Anyway. Yeah, that's really cute. And I love Renarin and Blaine. I'm not quite sure how you say that. But as well, I was worried that Brando Sando wouldn't do them justice, but he definitely did. Yeah, there's one particular scene towards the end of the book which just has me so excited for the second half of the Stormlight Archive, because they're going to be, I think, major players in that. I really like the whole Bar Ado Mishram plot, her story, and we find out more about it in the story. I loved her as a character. There's so much to say, I also loved the Shallan living this psychological spy thriller alongside Renarin and Rain living in their little rom-com, and their scenes are usually all together. They were sort of a 3, so they had most scenes together, so it was really funny that yeah, I like that. I think there's just so many characters to go through and dissect, so I'm not going to do it all now, but yeah, if you've not started the series, please do. The first book is The Way of Kings, and yeah, it was so yeah. Okay, then next we have The Will of the Many by James Islington. So I think this book has been out for a couple of years, but I'm actually quite glad I read it this year, so I didn't have to wait that long for Strength of the Few, which I'm now currently reading. So yeah, this book is set in this kind of Roman Empire inspired world called the Republic, where there's this thing called will, which is a form of power, and people have to cede their will to those above them. So depending on where you are in their like pyramid scheme, basically, depends on how powerful you are and how much will you get. So like the bottom of the pyramid are called the octavi, and they like only cede their will, they don't get any will. And then at the top of the will is the princeps, where they get the will from like 50,000 people. There's the little chart there. And we're following Vis, who is this orphan from a distant island that was initially independent, but then the Republic kind of took over and killed his family there. And he like escaped. And so now he's back trying to infiltrate the Republic. And he gets into the academy there, where they're like training to have a role in the government and have a powerful position in these willed pyramids. He has characters who are trying to manipulate him into their own ends as well, which I really enjoyed those characters. That is one thing I liked about this book, actually. Vis is quite young, but he has a lot of like spunk to him. He's a very angry character. But sometimes I think books where the character's young but is doing all this complex political plotting themselves, I think is sometimes a bit like not very realistic. But I liked how in this book there's older characters who are like trying to manipulate / successfully manipulating Vis and to their own ends. And Vis sort of has his own agency but is also getting pulled around by the plot a bit, which I thought was kind of realistic and good. I like that. This book has some great like morally grey / villain characters, like Relucia. She was my queen. I love her. We support women's wrongs. I really like Ulscore as a character as well. Lannister, she was great. The other, like, Vis makes friends with other like young people at the academy as well. I really like some of them, like Calidus and Equa. And Aiden, I've forgotten how you say his name. I don't think it's pronounced like that in the audiobook, but yeah, they were all great. I'm really excited to see the journeys continue. It's also a really interesting look at sort of republics and empires and corrupt governing bodies, and also sort of population complicity in a corrupt empire, which I think was really interesting. There's some really good quotes in this book, and sort of the concept of freedom and like how far people are willing to go for freedom and why people would give up their freedom seemingly to appease a regime. Like it's just also good. There's some such good themes. Yeah, and I would just really highly recommend. Yeah, that's that one. I also, one of my favourite things about this book also is Vis lies so much, and it's so obvious to like everyone, but no one can tell what he's actually lying about. Which I just really enjoy, because I feel like sometimes when characters are lying, like in a book, and you know they're lying but the other characters don't, it's sort of unbelievable when they don't believe them. But like it's kind of obvious in this book that the other characters know Vis is lying, they just don't know what he's lying about, which I think makes it work quite well. So yeah, that's another reason I really enjoyed this book. So yeah. Okay, so then this is kind of different from like the epic fantasy, which is on a lot of this list. And that is The Warm Hands of Ghosts by Catherine Arden. So I would have said this was historical fiction with like a small magical realism element. So this is set in World War One, and we're following a brother and sister. The brother gets like blown up by a shell at the beginning of the book and sort of goes missing. So then his sister Laura goes to try and find him. She goes back to, I think she was a nurse at World War One, then came home, then goes back to, she came home because she got injured, then goes back to the war to try and find out what's happened to her brother. So we're following Laura and then Freddie, who is the brother, and his like story of trying to survive, because he is then like trapped in this upturned box with a German soldier, and they're just like trying to survive, and then Laura's trying to find out what's happened to them, or to Freddie. And then later on in the book there's this magical like Pied Piper character who like becomes part of the story. That's sort of where the magic comes in. But this was so good. Like I've always been really resistant to reading like any book set in either World War One or World War Two. And I don't know why, it's just never appealed to me. But like after I read this, I was like, I'm on a spree now. I really, really like the setting. And Laura is a nurse, which I really enjoyed seeing the like medicine of the World War One. Yeah, so I found that aspect fascinating. There's some scenes where, so there's a doctor that Laura sort of befriends, and there's a scene where they're like doing something really rogue with a blood transfusion. I don't know if they sort of invented blood transfusions maybe in World War One. But yeah, that was just, it was kind of interesting to get the historical aspects of medicine in this book as well, which I really loved. I love that sort of sibling like relationship, trying to find each other. I loved the relationship between Freddie and the German soldier called Winter. Winter honestly is like my favourite character in this book, I think. He is such a like self-sacrificing character. Like he just will always completely like screw himself in order to save the other characters, and I just love that so much. I like Freddie as a character. He's very like sweet and naive and just wants to be a poet, you know, and then gets absolutely like pummeled by life, and it's sort of him dealing with his PTSD really, and then also exploring Laura's sort of PTSD as well, and like her physical injuries as well, which I thought was really interesting. Character of Falland, who is the like Pied Piper character, he was so fascinating. I actually loved him as a character. I think any book that has a compelling villain, like it's always so good. I won't say too much about that because I don't want to spoil the plot. But the Freddie the character is based on the poet Wilfred Owen, I think Wilfred Owen, and he, I found out recently, was actually like friends with my great-grandpa. So that's another reason I love the book. Let me just find out if that's the name of the poet or the character. I don't know, maybe poet and character have the same name. Yeah, Wilfred Owen is the name of the main character. No, is the name of the poet. But I think the character might also be called that. Yeah, so this was just excellent, and I would really highly recommend. Catherine Arden's writing style is so beautiful. She wrote The Bear and the Nightingale, which is another one of my favourite historical like magical realism series. And yeah, this one just lived up to it. It will like touch your heart and kind of give you a warm hug, but in like a chilling way is how I would describe it. A really great story of like love and loss and PTSD and just surviving in a war-torn world. Yeah, it was really great. I love that. I would highly recommend. Yeah. In case it wasn't obvious, by the way, all the books in this video were like 5 stars. They're like 10-star books, you know. Then next was the new Cassandra Clare series. So what's the first one called? The Swordcatcher, and then the Ragpicker King. So I love the Shadowhunter books, so I was kind of expecting to like these, but I don't think I was quite expecting to love them quite as much as I did. These gave me the same feeling that Six of Crows gave me, like for the first time reading it. It's very like set in like a sort of almost like, you know, that like Amsterdam-y Venetian style city, and the characters are like running around solving mysteries. But we're following Kell, who is known as a swordcatcher. So he impersonates the prince at important public events as like protection for the prince, for risk of sort of assassination and stuff. So he is best friends with the prince, who Connor, yeah. So Connor and Kell are like best friends, and they're like, so Kell imitates Connor sometimes at important public events, but like informally is known as his bodyguard. And yeah, they are, I can't remember exactly really what happens, to be honest. This is all a bit of a blur. It's also, I feel like Cassandra Clare books tend to be, I mean, they do have plot, but they often quite character focused. As always, her like romance is god tier, like so slow burn, so yeah, like just those little moments, you know, like sprinkles, breadcrumbs. The main couples are, yeah, one of them, like, I was shipping from the beginning. The other one I was, like, a bit uncertain of, but the ending of the Ragpicker King, like, absolutely sold me on the ship. So, yeah, and then there's some side characters that I love a lot. I feel like another thing Cassandra Clare does well is always her side characters, and, like, they're almost like, it's sort of like a cast of characters rather than main characters and side characters, so the whole cast are all so good. The character, oh yeah, so I think Kel gets blackmailed in the first book, and he gets involved in this like crime lord called the Ragpicker King, and they convince Kel to like work for them and spy for them a little bit. So the character of the Ragpicker King and then his like little sidekicks, I loved them all so much. Yeah, Merrin, he's one of my faves as well. And yeah, this book, kind of like all Cassandra Clare books, just really explores friendship and relationships and has an exciting plot. And yeah, I just really, really enjoyed it. I think it's very well written. The romance is like great. I think it just has all the elements of like a good fantasy book, similar to The Raven Scholar. Feels like a little bit chaotic, a very lovable cast of characters, like an interesting and exciting plot, and is well written. So yeah, that's just like the perfect package for me. So yeah, really enjoyed those. Then we have what's the first one called? The Tainted Cup and a Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. So I love this series so much. This is like a Sherlock and Watson. Sherlock Holmes is the same person. Sherlock and Watson, like detective murder mystery style, but set in this like fantasy world, which I really enjoy. So the main characters are called Din and Anna. So it's told from Din's perspective, and he's like the Watson character, and then Anna is this like famous kind of detective, like scholar, and she solves mysteries. So they sort of go around solving these different mysteries, but the mysteries are very entrenched in the politics of the empire, so they get kind of embroiled in that. And it's a very like it's sort of toes the line, I would say, between sci-fi and fantasy. It's this and almost like horror as well, like these weird like creatures called leviathans that like grow and are quite sinister. It's not a very traditional fantasy world. Toes the line of solar punk, I would say. Like if you've read Psalm of the Wild Bill, a bit similar to that in a way. Nature forward fantasy world that kind of feels not modern but also not old fashioned. Like I don't know how to describe that exactly. Yeah, like steam solar punk vibes. Yeah, but Din is such a great narrator. He's so funny. Him and Anna's like banter is hilarious. Din is just this like absolutely chaotic disaster bisexual. Anna is this like cutting, acerbic, like lady scholar. It's just like the dynamic is so good, and the mysteries are really good. And yeah, I would just highly recommend that series. The audiobooks are fantastic. I would recommend those as well. So yeah, that's definitely a favourite for me this year. Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, which is the final book. But books 2 and 3 in this series were both 5 stars for me, and the whole series overall I just love so much. So this book we're following Emily Wilde, who's this fairy scholar working at Cambridge. I think it's Cambridge or Oxford, one of the two. And she goes on field missions to find out more about the fairies. So in the first book they go to Norway to find out about the fae there, and then in the second book they go to Austria, and then in this book they actually go into the fae world. So Emily is accompanied by this character called Wendell, who is her love interest, but he's a very he's such a non-traditional love interest, which I love so much, because Emily is a very kind of serious, scholarly, quite bookish and introverted character, but also internally very sassy. And then Wendell is this completely over the top golden Labrador type character. He likes his fluffy blankets, he likes his proper food, he likes he's just very preeny. I don't know, preeny's not the right word. He likes his luxuries, which I appreciate because I also like that. But I just love the dynamic of those two, and how Emily sort of reluctantly tolerates him, but deep down she actually really likes him. And he's very kind towards Emily, and he also has more to his character, which I don't think is necessarily really a spoiler, because you find out in the first couple of chapters Emily's I'm not taking any BS from this bitch. I know what's going on. But yeah, I loved their romance throughout the series, and also just the like, it's written almost textbook like, with, or not textbook, like diary like, with textbook elements, I think. So you find out a lot about fairy folklore as well, and the fairy folklore of the world, and you're sort of uncovering the fairy mysteries with Emily and Wendell, and yeah, it was just a really great time. I loved this. This is a real comfort series, I feel like, now for me. So yeah, I would highly recommend. Yeah, I think the other thing about this series is the settings. So like the first book, the Norwegian, feels very cold and wintry, and they're like, oh, yeah, that was so good. The Austria one, that was my favourite, I think. It's like summer in Austria, so they're like green hills or green mountains, and just there's something like that, the Alpine vibe. It was so good. Like, I love the Alps, and just the whole vibe of that was amazing. And then I feel like the fairy world is written really well as well. It's very like dark forest and island energy. So yeah, the settings were impeccable in all 3 books. So yeah, would highly recommend that series. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is King's Rising, which is the final book in the like what's the first one called? Oh, Captive Prince. So I was always like, I don't think I should read that series because it's quite problematic, and a few years ago, it like everyone said it was very problematic, and like I didn't really have that much interest, to be honest, in reading it based on the description of the first book. But one day they might have been free on Audible or something, so I was like, yeah, fuck it. And so I read the first one, and I didn't enjoy the first one that much. Like, I liked it enough to want to carry on. But then the second book is like a masterpiece in like character development, like reader trickery. Like, it was insanely good compared to the first one. And then the third one was even better. Like, there was a masterpiece of a series in like slow burn, enemies to lovers, like things not being what they seem. I think the first book was like a necessary foundation, but I think, and I can see why it gets criticised for having problematic elements, but I think those are addressed later in the series. So I think if you read the first book alone, you'd be like, oh, what's going on here? But then by the time you get further on in the series, and like the development of the characters and like acknowledgement of past mistakes, I think is really good. And you can see why the author did it, because it's part of the kind of themes of the series. Rather than just the author endorsing those things, which I don't think they do at all. It's definitely acknowledged as wrong later in the series. And almost, I would say, a bit in the first book as well. I think it's kind of, I don't think characters should have to necessarily be perfect. And yeah, you don't get that like amazing character development without that, kind of. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I think just the way the series just like exponentially escalated for me in terms of like enjoyment and the characters, and how much you came to love them by the end, despite like not really liking them at the beginning. And just, yeah, it's just so good. And it's a great character study, I think, into why people behave the way they do, and like the way they've been treated in the past, and how that influences the future. And also the like manipulation and politics in powerful positions. It's just all so good. So yeah, I would really recommend that series, actually. If you've read the first one and been like, then do try the second one, because yeah, the progression is insane. I didn't think I even really described the plot, actually. Got too excited. So we follow Laurent and Damien, and Damien is like captured as a slave, and goes to the court where Laurent is like one of the princes. And yeah, Laurent like takes an interest in him. But Damien is actually the prince of another nation that has just been overthrown, or like had a coup. So yeah, it's all very, you can see the setup. That's sort of how the book starts. So yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know any books that have been favourites for you this year in the comments. I would love to know, or if you've read any of these. And yeah, I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you next time.